everyone, welcome to The Walk. This is a new series called Seasons of Change. In this 4-week series, you will discover how we are all called to be a person of influence by understanding and practicing disciplines that have a positive impact on others. Having influence does not have to do with your age, profession, or status, but belief that God created you with a purpose. All of us have desires and ambitions. The challenge is to discern between the desires that are rooted in our ego and the desires that have God as their source and His glory as their aim. In these next 4 weeks, we will continue to walk in the footsteps of Jesus as we learn and develop genuine disciplines that Jesus exemplified. In this first session, Avoid the Fall, Be Humble, the Apostle John is a great example of our first discipline, humility. John doesn't start out as a humble follower of Christ. In fact, he had very selfish ambitions and plans for himself. It is not inherently wrong to have aspiring ambitions or desire success. But it is wrong to have selfish motives, as John apparently did as a new disciple. And it is especially wrong to have ambitions without humility. This is an important balance to strike. Without humility, virtue turns to vice, and ego-driven ambition hardens our hearts, silencing God's call in our life. When John approached Jesus and requested to be seated next to him, which is the highest seat of favor, Jesus reiterated the importance of humility when he said in Mark 10:31, "Many who are first will be last, and last will be first." In today's culture, we are conditioned to believe that being humble is synonymous with weakness. Perhaps humility is slowly becoming a missing link in our modern-day world. Playing the game of being right and winning at all cost is destructive and is clearly evident in our schools, businesses, churches, and yes, in politics. Nobody wins at this game. In fact, it is counterproductive. There is a selfishness and a greediness to it, and when played out in the world, it comes with much loss, including life. When we allow our ego to override who we are created to be, pride and vanity restrict us and turn us inward. It will ultimately make us sad, insecure, and expose a hardened heart, affecting everyone around us. Sin divides, love unites. Jesus teaches that genuine humility can be one of our greatest strengths. John did eventually learn the balance between ambition and humility, and practiced this throughout his ministry to become one of the most influential disciples of Jesus. This demonstrates that a person of influence must work collectively with humility for the realization of a desired outcome. This is the ultimate measure of success. Jesus himself was humility personified and emphasized this truth when he said, "If you want to be great in the kingdom, you must become the servant of all. Everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted." In other words, avoid the fall, be humble. Here's the thing about humility. If we forget ourselves and turn outward in love, not with eye service as people pleasers, but service from the heart, our desires and ambitions will come into fruition. Humility liberates us from the self-absorption of our ego and opens our hearts to allow God to work through us. In 2000, Oprah Winfrey had the rare opportunity to interview Nelson Mandela. In their conversation, she asked, "How does a man spend 27 years in prison, put there by an oppressor, and come out of that experience with a forgiving heart? How do we humble ourselves and be peacemakers?" And this is how he answered, and I quote, "The first thing is to be honest with yourself. You can never have an impact on society if you have not changed yourself. And one of the most important weapons in changing yourself is to recognize that people everywhere in the world want peace. But humility is one of the most important qualities that you must have." Because if you are humble, people will realize that you are not a threat to them. It is then that people will embrace and trust you. You have a limited time on earth. You must try and use that period for the purpose of transforming your country in what you desire it to be." End quote. Practicing humility is a daily discipline and a character trait that takes a lot of time and effort to develop with ourselves. However, it doesn't go unrewarded. James 4:10 tells us, "Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up." As you develop the discipline of humility, remember this quote from C.S. Lewis: "True humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less." This week, allow your heart to lead and have courage like Apostle John and Nelson Mandela. Stand in contrast to what's happening around you and do something that demonstrates humility without the need for recognition. Watch the inspiring videos on the Rooted webpage for ideas, then print out your walk sheet and journal about your experience. The world needs more people to make a positive impact. Let's all be committed to be a person of influence. Have a great week. Love and miss you all.